friends. Well, I have quite a tale to tell today. I guess the story starts on Friday night. Friday night, I couldn't sleep. I woke up at 6 and had to be up at 6, and I went to bed at 3. I couldn't sleep. Between that time, somebody broke into my van. They smashed my passenger side window. Interestingly enough, it did not wake me up. I sleep with earplugs, and I didn't hear a thing. Obviously, they did the dirty deed between 3 and 6, because I would have heard it if I was awake. But I was sleeping with earplugs in, because I'm a very light sleeper and I need earplugs. Otherwise, all the ambient noise outside will wake me up. So, I get up, and there's a cool breeze as I open the partition door. I look over. Hey, where's my window? And why is there glass everywhere? Somebody smashed my window. What a bummer. So I go up to my kids' house to look after my kids for the day. It's a Saturday. And I'm sitting there and go, wait a second. What about my backpack? Did they steal my backpack? And I'm like, okay. Ask my son, who's 13, to look after my daughter, who's 6, for 5 minutes while I go check the van to see if the backpack's gone. Get to the van. Backpack is gone. Major bummer. Because in that backpack, I have a binder about this thick. It's a 3-inch binder, and it's full of documents for work. They have no value to anybody but me, because they represent hours and hours and hours and hours of work, perhaps 100 hours of work, that are not easily replicated. Now, luckily, not all my work. That was only like, I don't know, I'm not going to try to figure out a percentage, but it was a part of my work. But I have a lot of work stored online as well. So luckily, obviously, they can't touch the stuff that's online. But I lost that backpack with all that work. Irreplaceable. Because of the time spent creating it. I also lost weird things like extra thing of arm deodorant, which as a van dweller, if you can't get a shower in the day, you know, that arm deodorant is pretty important. So that was, you know, there are a lot of other things in there that I lost in the backpack. But nothing of real value. There's no tablet, there's no laptop, there's nothing worth any financial that you can sell to make any money on. So the guy who broke into my van got nothing financially. And yeah, the big lesson to me is, hey man, don't leave stuff on your front seat. Hello. But I'd been doing it for years, and I just got so used to it because, you know, the van's a small area, and the backpack is fairly large and takes up a lot of room. Instead of having to do the van shuffle and move the backpack all the time, I just stick it in the front seat. Monday after work, I go to this glass repair shop that's going to be fixing the van. And they have to order the window, so it's going to take a few days. So in the meantime, they put a plastic wrap on the window so I don't get soaking wet. And part of the problem is I need, because it's raining all the time in Vancouver, so I need to have that window covered so that rain doesn't pour in while I'm driving. Same time, I cannot have it covered while I'm driving because I can't see out of my side view mirror. I only have one mirror if I have that window covered. So then I get the plastic put on at the glass place. However, here is where the real fun begins. The guy who is putting the plastic on wants to move my van. He takes my keys. Key, I should say. Not singular, not plural. I only have one key for this van. He comes back 5 minutes later and he says, hey, does this key open all your locks and your ignition? And I said, yes. He goes, oh, okay. Then he leaves. 10 minutes later, he comes back. He goes, oh, there's something wrong with your key. It's bent. It's bending. I go, what do you mean bending? What do you mean bent? And then he shows it to me. It's in 2 pieces. The only key for my van. He breaks the key in my ignition. Partly my fault, because I should have warned him that the tumbler is worn out in my ignition, and you have to pull the key out like a millimeter or two to turn it. I didn't even think of that to tell him. So, man alive, he broke my key, the only key I have to this van. What am I going to do now? Screwed. So, the people at the auto repair place that fixed the glass, I should say the receptionists were very helpful and very understanding. And, you know, the guy, it wasn't their fault. The guy left in a huff and went into the employees only area. And he goes, whoa, your key broke, blah, blah, blah. And then he just stormed off. Like, yeah, you broke it. So then about 15 minutes later, this other guy comes along and tries to talk to me about what happened. And, you know, they're trying to kind of escape the blame. So I said, here's the thing. One of the key rules in mechanics, from my understanding, and I'm not a mechanic, I know a couple things, but I'm certainly not a mechanic. I said the rule is you don't force it. You force things, things break. And the guy obviously forced it because the key's in 2 pieces. I was in a whole piece when I gave it to him. And the second guy, not the original guy, the second guy, he agreed that he obviously did force it because the key's broken. My key has this little plus with a circle around it, 2012 Chevy Express. That plus is an anti-theft device, and I actually get a slight discount, I think, on my insurance because of it. And for whatever reason, they cannot just use the broken key to make a new copy. They cannot just read the VIN number off the dash or off the insurance papers to make a copy, which is the way it used to be. But oh no, the van has to be towed because they need to make a mold of my I don't know if mold is the right word, but they need to make an imprint of the ignition to make a new key. I'm like, okay, that's weird. So then I'm getting ahead of myself. I gotta park the van overnight near the glass place. Well, where we're originally parked. I'm not moving it because there's no keys. They're fine with that. I got some weird reactions when I said I'm living in it, and they're like, oh, okay. So that was funny because I had to tell that to them because I can't just leave and come back. I need to sleep in there. But luckily it was on the public road and parking was not restricted. So then the road that I'm parked on is busy and noisy. It's a pretty major road. And I had to have my earplugs in the whole time I was in the van because the amount of traffic noise was not enjoyable. I get back to the van totally soaked because, of course, we have one of the wettest days of the year and I don't have a car. And even though I had an umbrella, my pant legs are completely drenched and my shoes and socks are completely drenched. Ah, my goodness. So then I get back and the guy's got the van on the tow truck because they have another deal with this tow truck company. The owner knows this guy, and the owner I talked to at the glass shop was really nice, and I explained to him, I know these things happen, mistakes happen. I'm not getting really mad about it because what does getting angry solve? Kind of like what the Buddha says, if you are holding anger in your hand, it's kind of like a hot coal. Who's it burning? It's burning you. So whenever possible, I try to minimize my amount of anger. And I don't get angry easily. I have a very long fuse, but when I'm angry, I'm pretty angry. So I just, the owner and I talked, and I said, it happens, and it's unfortunate. So they ended up dead cover the towing. They paid for one key. So I get down there, and he goes, "Your van is American." I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, we can't access the code for the van, and because it's an American van, and we can't call the place that has the numbers in the U.S. because it's on the East Coast and they're closed." So, and he said, "I know that your van is your residence. How can we get around this?" I said, "Well, I don't know. I'll have to figure this out." So what happened was he told me, bring him the broken key and they'll see if they can use the broken key. One of the interesting things about this situation was I saw something that I already knew, but it was a reminder about my ex-wife. She offered 3 times to help me out when I was getting towed and I didn't know how much it was going to cost. She offered to drive over and use her AAA, or we call BCAA here, and use one of her free tows to get me towed. That was very nice. She didn't have to do that. She didn't have to because the glass place covered the towing. Secondly, she offered to have me stay the night when she realized I didn't have a place to stay and I might have to leave my van overnight at the dealership. So she's very kind in offering that. So what I was reminded of, that even though my ex-wife and I have a lot of disagreements about the way we communicate and all that kind of stuff, she's still a really good person and she's got a good heart, and her and I can't be married, and I have no desire, romantically or otherwise, to ever be involved in that situation again, but she's a good person. Every once in a while some MGTOW person comes on here and say, "Oh, women are worthless, blah 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 blah." Well, you got to be careful about what you say, because unless you really understand the intimate details of the situation, you kind of don't know what you're saying. So she's a good person. And this was kind of like a silver lining to the situation, is that this reminded me of that. She was willing to let me sleep at her place. She didn't have to do that. She was willing to help me get towed at her inconvenience. Anyways, there we go, guys. A very troublesome few days. But, there's this Japanese saying, fall down 7 times, stand up 8. And you have to persevere and just kind of grit your teeth and get through it, and it'll all work out in the end. Tomorrow, I get the new glass, and all is well. Thanks for watching, and be well, my friends.